Case. Hello. शरेश जी, क्या हाल चाल? गुड इवनिंग सर. ओके. So you can ask questions if you have any. No one has any questions. I have a question. Does Saturn Antardasha also gives problems or delay in matters of spirituality? Uh, Saturn Saturn delays everything. Okay. So plus at the same time it also represents hard work and perseverance. It also represents focus. So Saturn uh, in any condition will delay things, like if Saturn is in the 12th house, or if it is with Jupiter, or aspecting Jupiter, or it is aspecting 12th house. it can it can trouble it can trouble someone's, it can delay someone's spiritual belief system. Their spiritual beliefs can develop with delay, but it also represents hard work and perseverance. So more the person focuses, more he devotes himself into matters related with spirituality, then he can expect better growth. Okay. So it depends upon the person. If he is if he is focused on his spiritual growth, and if he is putting the best efforts to get his spiritual views correct, then as per his hard work and perseverance he can get results. Okay, so even in a spiritual field there can be a delay, but it all lots depend on the person's efforts. If he is putting his best effort, then he can get better results. uh, okay. Female chart may Libra ascendant. Sun and how will be the married life? Sun 13 degree, Venus 12.5 degree, first house in Libra ascendant, female chart. How will be the married life? Is always troublesome, sir, for everyone. What about you? What about anyone else? Okay, everyone has their problems in relationship, and why we are focused on married life only? uh, Understand that every relationship is difficult. We cannot say that we never had any conflict with our parents, and we cannot say that we never had any conflict with our siblings. Even in those relationships we have our difficulties, so this relationship will also have its own difficulties. Sun Venus within 1 degree, Venus is highly combust, Sun is ego, Venus is relationship. There can be ego conflicts in relationship, and like person has to work really well to let go of his ego and focus on his relationship, because at the end of the day you can have either your ego or your relationship. You cannot have both. So this is where person should focus. Okay, there can be difficulties in any situation. This is only one planetary placement. I can tell 100 planetary placement where any relationship can be troublesome. Okay, there is no chart which is good for relationship of any nature. How should we read at Jupiter when it is Atichara, that is Jupiter covers a Rashi in 5 or 6 months as against 12 months. We saw this last year in Capricorn. Do you see a negative impact? Only thing is that when Jupiter spends whole of time in one sign, okay, like if Jupiter stays in one sign for 12 to 13 months, which is its a normal transit time, it shows the intensity is very high in that particular house and sign. In Jupiter is going to stay there for a longer time. uh, Whereas when Jupiter is shifting, changing a lot, like sometime it is going in Capricorn, sometimes in Sagittarius, then it is in Aquarius, then energy is like scattered everywhere. Then we cannot expect some potential event happening in such type of transit where its energy is everywhere. The best example to understand is like if you have a like elephant walking in front of you versus a cat walking in front of you. Cat will swiftly move and you may not even realize, but elephant you will take a notice because it will go such a slower speed. So when any planet is staying in one sign for a long enough time, it is bound to make some events happen in that house. Okay, that's why it is better to have Jupiter in one sign for a longer duration. Even if it is debilitated, at least it is there for 12 13 months. You can work out something, but when it is moving around everywhere, then the energy level is very low. I am Cancer ascendant. I am having a Jupiter return in next month. Good. What can I expect during this transit? My dasha changed from Moon to Mars this month as well. So, like the article which I wrote for Jupiter's transit in Aquarius will be more of a help for you. But what I can say here is that it is 8th house transit. Expect some major changes happening in your overall life, plus your interest in occult side of life will grow further. You may be more interested in occult side of life. You may find some guru also, teacher, which can who can teach you in occult side of life. Then you can then Jupiter Saturn mutual impact will be on your fourth house Libra. There can be some events related with your home, real estate matters, and mother. Okay, but going through that article may help you. It will give you lot more information. Okay. Transit of Jupiter in Aquarius. It should be in the recent article section. For male and female compatibility as romantic relationship, what we look at Venus, Moon, or something else. We should first of all look at ascendant. Okay, ascendant should be receptive. At least it should not be 6-8 relationships. 6-8 relationships are always difficult. Understand 6-8 means someone is Aries ascendant and he is in relationship with a Scorpio ascendant. They are 6-8 relationship. They are activating 6-8 houses of each other. First of all, it should not be there. Then we can look at other things like Moon, Venus, more planets which are receptive. Okay, like more planets which are in the same sign. If I just give you an example, Jupiter in Cancer. Suppose a man has Jupiter in Cancer, it is better if the other person, the girl, has Venus in Cancer or Venus in Capricorn, either in the same sign or in the receptive signs. Okay, so that shows a kind of receptivity among the relationship partners. But looking at relationship synastry, bring any two charts, there will be some complications, there will be some troublesome points, and that's where they have to work on together. Okay, but receptivity of ascendant and receptivity of planets are good indications. 1-7 relationship or 5-9 relationship. Okay, there are articles written on relationship synastry on website that will give you good amount of indication that what is receptivity and how we can see the relationship synastry. Okay, but in short answer to your question, every planet should be looked at, not only Venus, Moon, or something else. Every planet's receptivity should be looked at, because that will decide which planet is going to impact which planet. Okay. I am a Gemini ascendant, Saturn Rahu in 8th house. How will it affect? Saturn Rahu in the 8th house, you will have lots of troubles with your in-laws, I am sorry to say. Okay, Saturn Rahu creates lots of frustration together. 8th house is the house of your in-laws plus marriage benefits. It is better if you can keep a long distance relationship. That will be much better. But otherwise, marriage benefits can be stressful for you. How you deal with that stress depends upon your maturity level. Thank you. Hi Darja, how are you? D9, my husband and me have Jupiter, Venus in Taurus, but both have Leo Sun. Great. Yeah, as per my view, D9 has nothing to do with marriage, sorry to say. So if we come back to that question of relationship synastry, and I give little bit more information. So not only the ascendant, the sun sign or moon sign, it should be seen that these planets are either in 1-7 relationship, like I said, sun in Cancer, then other person should have sun in Capricorn or Cancer. Okay, either the same sign or the opposite sign. It shows the receptivity. Plus, the 5-9 relationships are good, like sun in Cancer and other person has sun in Scorpio or sun in Pisces. That is also a good combination. So it shows a harmonious relationship or receptive relationship, that people are able to understand each other. But there will be no two charts which are completely receptive of each other. Okay, so that is something we have to understand, that there is nothing like 100% compatibility. We all have challenges, and we all have challenges in many relationships. Okay, uh, we have same ascendant Magha and Rahu Ketu same. That shows good amount of karmic debt towards each other. So it is like you both are having some past life karma towards each other, and you are paying it off in this life. Okay, any further question? I have a strong memory with him in past life. That's great. So that is and also another thing is that every relationship is karmic relationship. Some bigger karma, some smaller karma. Okay, even if I am if I am sharing my knowledge or information with people, that means maybe in my some other life I was benefited by your knowledge. So that is I am paying it off in this way. So for me, every relationship is karmic relationship. So any further question? August 16th. D9 Jupiter in 5th house in Scorpio means it is Cancer ascendant. Cancer ascendant, Jupiter is ninth lord in a Scorpio. There is a possibility that this person will be driven towards following a life path of teacher or guide or counselor. Because ninth house is most important in D9 chart, because D9 itself is coming out of the ninth house of D1 chart. Here Ninth house is Pisces sign, its Lord Jupiter is in Scorpio, fifth house. And this shows that both the houses are related with guiding and counseling people. Jupiter itself is a guide, counselor, Brahaspati, teacher. So this person can be involved with any kind of work of guiding, counseling people, which can be his right life path. Maybe in occult side also. Yo. Exalted moon with Ketu in the sixth house of D9. What result it brings? Look at the D1 first. Don't just jump into D9. Okay, as I always say, D1 is the mother of all charts. Uh, all the other charts are coming out of your D and D1 chart. D1 remains the mother of all charts. So first we should exhaustively read D1, then we should come to D9. Now again, Ketu moon in Taurus in sixth house means it is Sagittarius ascendant. Uh, from this much information, because I don't know D1, I don't know whole of the D1 and D9, this much information I can only say that this person can have the interest in research in financial or wealth related matters. That's it, nothing more than that. In D9, Jupiter with Sun in first house Aries. Again, look at D1 chart first. But with this much of information, Jupiter, Sun together in first house Aries, Jupiter is ninth lord, 12th lord, sitting in the first house. Sun is fifth lord. The lord of both the houses of education and counseling are coming into the first house Aries, and they are in good dignity also. It shows that your life path will involve lots of guiding and counseling related activities. You may be doing any work, you may be in any sort of profession, but you will always be involved with any kind of guiding and counseling related activity. Or you may be a natural guide or counselor to the people. Okay. This. Is there any significant connection of Cancer and Aquarius? Now again, it is if you are asking about the compatibility kind of things, then Cancer and Aquarius, this is 6-8 relationship. Okay, Cancer is the sign of Cancer is the fourth sign, This Aquarius is the 11th sign. Aquarius falls into Cancer's 8th house, Cancer ascendant's 8th house, and Cancer falls into Aquarius person's 6th house. So this creates a 6-8 relationship. If these two people get into relationship, it will be like a very unstable one. Okay. If it is ascendant, okay. Now if it is a different planet which is there in Cancer and Aquarius, the interpretation changes as per that planet involved and their dignity. Okay. But this is if this is ascendant, then it is going to be a 6-8 relationship. And like generic thing is that we should avoid 6-8 relationships. That is the basic thing, because these relations never get stable. Sun and Venus, and again Venus is the relationship oriented planet, so there will be kind of instability. Okay, when Sun and Venus are in Cancer and other person has them in Aquarius, so Venus is relationship, so there will be kind of instability, ups and downs in relationship. Okay, any further question? People are enjoying Sunday. Could you generally talk about debilitated malefic planet? Okay, so understand it like this, that a malefic planets. Let's talk about the basics. Sun, Mars, Rahu, Ketu, and Saturn. These 5 planets are called malefic planets. Okay. Understand malefic planets as the like villains of our movie, bad guys of our movie. Okay, their job is just like villains of our movie create obstacles in hero's path, and then hero overpowers those obstacles and we realize the importance of the hero. It shows that a malefic planet uh, creates obstacles in our path, creates obstacles in the native's path, and then native realizes his true potential after overpowering those difficulties and obstacles. So that is the function of a malefic planet. Now this malefic planet, if it is also debilitated, that means if Saturn, and let's take this example, Saturn is the strongest malefic planet and now it is also debilitated, it is even worse. Okay, so it is means if you were if you were overcoming your difficulties around 30 years of age or 35 years of age with Saturn with Saturn in any sign, in Aries where it is debilitated, now you will overcome around 35 to 40 years of age. So it can be the situation that a debilitated malefic planet can be more difficult to deal with. Like if Mars is in Cancer, Mars is anyways anger and aggression, and Cancer is the sign of Cancer is sign of its debilitation. It is like person has no clear idea about where to throw his anger, where not to throw his anger. He can be violent, he can be abusive, anything. So this is what happens, that a debilitated malefic planet is kind of more troublesome, and it requires a lot of life experience and lot of consciousness level, higher consciousness level, to deal with such an energy in a positive way. Okay, then only things can be better. Eighth house moon, does it deal with some kind of transformation in your generational patterns? It sounds like that to me. It can be. Eighth house represents all type of changes. Moon is your mind. Moon is also the memory you are carrying from your all your lives. Okay, from your past life and past to past life. Moon is also your parenting related planet. Okay, it represents your mother and grandmother, mother's mother, and all. So it can show that it can show some transformation, some changes, the pattern from generations. Okay, uh, it can show those things which you are saying, that does it deal with some kind of transformation in your generational patterns? It can be the case. My cousin's Mars in Cancer, Ashlesha, my husband Saturn debilitated with Venus. Right, it is difficult that if malefic planets are further debilitated also, or in wrong dignity, or afflicted, it is they are anyways heavy energy, difficult energy. Now they are also debilitated. It is difficult to deal with, but a lot depends upon the person who is dealing with it. If the level is high, if the person is mature enough, he can deal in a very different way in comparison to someone who is very immature. So this is the final thing, that who is dealing with that energy. A mature person can deal in a very mature way. Any further question? Okay. Ask if you have any question, otherwise, let's close it. No point in wasting your time. What about debilitated Jupiter in 11th house and Saturn in first house Pisces? It is like then there is a Parivartan yoga happening between Saturn and Jupiter. Now, whatever Saturn and Jupiter both represent, this Parivartan yoga will help, and uh, if they don't represent anything in common, then this Parivartan yoga is not going to help. Also, as Saturn is involved, all the results will come with delay, hard work, and perseverance. Person has to work really hard over a longer period of time to gain any benefit out of it. Okay. Now, Jupiter, Saturn both represent law. Okay. They both represent law and legal administration and all. So this Parivartan yoga can be very helpful in any field related with law. Okay, any work related with law, litigation, judges, lawyers, and all. And this Parivartan yoga can be very helpful. But when it comes to like dealing with other aspects of life of Jupiter or Saturn, like relationship, Jupiter represents married life. So in relationship matters, there is no respite because of this. No respite because of this Parivartan yoga happening. Okay, so Parivartan yoga are helpful, but only in those matters which are somewhere connected with both the planets involved, which they both represent. Okay, they are not helpful when both planets don't represent those things. Does any aspect tell if a person is will become a brahmachari, a renunciation order? There are many such indications, like Saturn being involved with the seventh house. Okay, Saturn Ketu both. Okay, Saturn represents limitation, Ketu represents separation. So if Saturn Ketu are both involved with seventh house or seventh lord, that shows the person is very less inclined towards relationship aspect of life. So that is one of the indication. If Saturn Ketu are involved with Venus, that is also one of the indication that person may not be involved in relationship or inclined towards relationship. Plus Dhanishta nakshatra becomes prominent. Okay, if someone has like a seventh lord in Dhanishta, or Venus Jupiter in Dhanishta, or like Dhara, Karaka, and Dhanishta. Dhanishta is the nakshatra of celibacy because the mythological story related with Dhanishta is of a story of Pitama Bhishma in Mahabharata. As he was celibate, this nakshatra brings celibacy kind of thing. Either they are not inclined for relationship. In case they are forced into relationship, that will be like a very difficult relationship to sustain. So Dhanishta nakshatra is very prominent for celibacy. At a given time, what is most prominent? Nakshatra of Sun, Moon, Ascendant, or Dasha planet. What characteristics will person show for lifetime? Dasha planet. Okay. Understand that every planet is active in chart. We generally use this terminology that this planet is active, that planet is active, but every planet is active. There is no planet in your chart which is not active. Only the dasha planet is something which results are very apparent right on your face. So other planets take a back seat. Okay, so they are still there, but they are taking a back seat. It is just that the dasha planet is very strong, and its results you can see very clearly. So you feel that then this planet is active. Otherwise, every planet is active, but dasha planet is more prominent one because you feel it. How important is nakshatra lord and the corresponding sub lord for a particular planet? What is the significance of having Venus as sub lord for most of the planets? It depends largely on Venus position, but I normally deal with only the lord. I never go into the sub lord level. Okay, so my analysis is based on nakshatra and nakshatra lord. Okay, that is the first thing. Then like in Bhrigu, sorry, in Bhrigu Nadi Jyotish, they utilize this sublord, and they place more important to the sublord because they feel that it is at the foundational level. In my experience, my predictions are based on the planet, sign, nakshatra lord, and it worked for me. Okay, so I don't feel any need to change. Okay, so uh, I cannot say that which is more important. Everything is important. The logic behind giving importance to the sublord is that it is at the base. Okay, it is at the base of any nakshatra, the sublord, and then lord, then nakshatra, then sign. So that is why. What is the significance of having Venus as sublord? As I said, it depends upon lot upon your Venus position. If it is sublord of majority of your planets, then Venus position is important. And whenever you go into Venus dasha, antardasha, and pratyantar dasha, those dashas are important because it will activate majority of your planets, and you will get that type of result as per the Venus position. It can also represent someone is very relationship inclined, a person who cannot live without a relationship, but at a higher terms it can also represent someone who is service oriented. The highest representation of Venus is service and devotion. So if someone is service oriented or not, that is also seen from Venus. It depends upon the evolution level of the person himself or herself, that where they are. If they are at a lower evolution level, and then they are more inclined towards relationship aspect of life. If they are at a higher evolution level, they are more inclined towards a service oriented life. Wherever you get inclined towards, that will also decide your evolution level. Okay, then I want to know Rahu Moon Rahu Moon is a dreaded conjunction. Okay, since Moon being a very fast transiting, this conjunction always bad. It understand Rahu is obsession, Moon is emotions. Both coming together is someone having obsessive emotions. They may have this OCD kind of thing, obsessive compulsive disorder. They may have emotional extremes also, going in from one extreme to another. It is like they are very happy sometimes, they are very sad at sometimes. So this is the main challenge which comes with Rahu Moon conjunction. More they meditate, the more they can keep their mind in peaceful and balanced state, better it is for them. So it is important that this Rahu Moon conjunction person, or whenever Moon is afflicted, it is always better to meditate regularly. Thus, the time period of Sadhasati and Saturn Dasha bring extremely positive results for some natives. It can bring if someone is very proactive. I think I discussed it yesterday also in session at YouTube. Uh, so with Saturn you have to be proactive. There is no other way. With Saturn you have to be proactive in dealing with it. Like Saturn Mahadasha, if Saturn Mahadasha is starting, you should be proactive in dealing with issues in your life wherever Saturn is impacting them. Uh, Proactive from 2 years, at least 2 years beforehand, before the start of Saturn Dasha. Okay, like I said yesterday in session that I have bone related issues from my childhood, and I am starting my Saturn Dasha from 2027. So I have started taking proactive measures from now only, from 2020 or 21 only. So this is the type of proactiveness Saturn requires. If you want to deal with Saturn, this is the type of proactiveness you should apply. Second thing is that like Sade Sati has three different phases. Okay, people say that the second phase is the most important, where Saturn is transiting over your moon. That is the most important phase. That is where the most stress comes. I feel that if you are aware and proactive in the first step itself, first phase itself, when Saturn has when Sadhasati has just started the first phase, from first phase it will start giving you indications what are the things going wrong in your life. Okay, what are the things you need to correct. Saturn will start giving you indications. If you are proactive, you start working on those things, then the second and the third phase can be peaceful. But if you just follow the basic human nature, that okay, let it work as long as it is going on, let it go, then you will be in trouble when Saturn is in the second phase. When Saturn is over your moon, that is when all those troubles will be right over your face. Then you cannot neglect it, then you cannot further delay it, then you have to take action. So this is the phase which is most important. The first phase you have to be proactive, so that you can deal with the second phase and third phase in a decent way. Otherwise, by the time second phase starts, it will create havoc in your life, and then you will not have much time to react. What if a house is afflicted, but its lord is exalted? uh, okay, so someone has Saturn in Leo, but sun is in Aries. Okay, so everything is in addition. So in this case also, like a person will have some difficulties related with the house which is afflicted. It will have some benefits of the planet which is exalted. Again, the difficulties will be more in the jiva karaka, living significances of the that house, and the benefits will be of non-living significances of that house. Okay. Husband has Rahu, Sun, Moon in 8th house Pisces. Both his parents are active social workers. Thank you. Uh, Thank you once again. My son lost grandmother, Bua, and Masi in Sadesati, all accidental, sudden. I am sorry to know this. Does having a debilitated Venus in D9 chart brings troubles in marital life. Again, D9 has nothing to do with your marriage. Okay, let me explain this in a better way. D9 is popularly known as the chart of marriage. If you just Google D9 and marriage has become synonym. Okay, but if you just pay attention to all the kinds of logics and theory, they tell you that D9 is the chart of marriage. There are many loopholes, many lacunas in those theories. They say that D9 is chart of your later life, right? When are you going to become aware that your early life has ended and your later life has started? When are you going to become aware of it? You can never know it. I can never know how much is my age. If I am supposed to live for 40 years, let's say 45 years, then my later life had started 20 years back, right? If I am supposed to live for 90 years, my later life hasn't started yet, as yet. So how can you determine when is your later life starting? First of all, use little bit of logic. Then they say that it is chart of your marriage. What if a person doesn't marry? What if a person marries 10 times in his life? How many times your D9 will become active? They say that it is chart of your partner also, the same logic. How if I marry 10 times, then I will have 10 different partners. The same D9 will show the 10 different partners, or the same D9 will show the 10 different marriages. Same D9 will get activated 10 times. Okay, so and these are the things which I am confused about when we say that D9 is the chart of marriage. Now I tell you why it became the chart of marriage. D9 is basically coming out of your 9th house of D1 chart. 9th house is the house of your dharmic path in life. Highest of the dharma house, it represents your dharmic path in life. So if a chart is coming out of 9th house of D1 chart, that chart will show your dharmic path in life, not your marriage kind of institution. Okay. Now why it became the chart of marriage is that 99% population follows the same path. So they said, okay, fine, everyone is going on to the same path, then it must be the right life path. Then it must be the dharmic path, complete sheep mentality. Okay, that everyone is going on to the same path, then it should be the right path. It is not the case. Everyone's path cannot be the same. Everyone is not destined to live the same kind of compartmentalized life we are living. Okay, that's where D9 is the chart of your right life path, not your marriage kind of institution. And also understand, it is a social institution. It changes with every society. Every society has different rules for marriage. Okay, in societies like India, your caste, your culture, your religion, these things become important for marriage kind of institution. Okay, bank balances become important. Your how good looking or bad looking is someone, that becomes important. Fortunately, none of these criterias are astrological criterias. I don't think any astrology book says that if this person doesn't have a car, he cannot marry. I don't think there is any astrology books which says that if you get alliance of this XYZ person of this caste, then you should say no to the person. So astrology in itself has nothing to do with marriage as an institution. Then how come D9 is going to be chart of marriage? Astrology is only related with relationship. When you are going to get into relationship, when you are going to have some alliances coming, after that it is your social circus, nothing else. So D9 has nothing to do with marriage or marital life or your partner or your marriage as an institution. No connection at all. And somehow people are ready to believe in whatever they are told. They are not applying little bit of logic, little bit of common sense, that okay fine, if you are telling that it is start of your later life, when I am going to realize my later life? I don't know why people are not asking these basic questions. That anyone makes any number of videos or on YouTube and makes writes some articles, D9 is marriage, and people are ready to believe D9 is marriage. That's it. No question asked. Is it true that with Ketu with moon, especially in 12th and 8th house, gives moksha? We can only know that when a person is going to be spiritually inclined, and when we can, if a person is going to be spiritually inclined, we can never know if someone is going to get moksha or enlightenment or liberation, nothing like that. These are thing even in generic predictions. Okay, even in predictions like suppose I say that someone is going to get a job or someone should be in business, I can never be like sure that okay, this will happen, this can happen, this may happen. Okay, this is a probability, but we can never say that this and this can happen, this will happen. Okay, likewise for moksha or enlightenment, liberation, this is beyond the capacity of an astrologer to predict. Understand the basic thing: who is predicting? An astrologer who himself is not enlightened, and he is predicting that this person is going to be enlightened. Right? So understand this basic thing, that the person who is predicting, he has no experience of being enlightened, and he is declaring that this person is going to be enlightened. Whether you know yourself, are you enlightened enough to predict such a thing? Okay, so this is where it can never be predicted that if someone is going to get moksha or enlightenment, nothing. We can only see if a person will be spiritually inclined or not, and what are the dashas or transits which can bring the spiritual evolution to the person. Okay. Ketu moon Jupiter retrograde in 5th house Aquarius sign. Aquarius is the sign of serving humanity. Ketu moon Jupiter, it is a very good spiritual combination. So this combination can make someone an occultist. Someone can serve humanity through his knowledge or guiding, counseling people. Okay, so that type of results can come. But yeah, that that D9 is something which we have to retrospect and find out some solution, because I'm most amazed at this thing rather than okay fine. If an astrologer is writing a video, he's if I may use this word, he is fooling around people. Then okay, I can understand. He has some financial requirements, but why people are not using their mind? I am unable to understand that. Why people cannot use little bit of logic that okay, if it is chart of marriage, then what about these conditions? Like you may be interested to know that uh, yesterday person called me and he wanted to have consultation when he is going to have better finances, and this person happens to be a gemstone dealer. He has all the gemstones in his shop, which he is selling to other people to become financially well, but he is not using for himself, and he is asking me as per his chart. So understand, if these things really work, if these gemstones remedies, the person who is dealing with it, at least he should be using these things, right? Anyways, nice discussion. How can they have aspect nodes of the moon? uh, they are mm, uh, if I just put a cross question, if every other planet has aspects, then why they are not having any aspect? If I just accept okay fine, Rahu and Ketu are not having any aspect, understand, let me put it this way. Rahu Ketu are nodes of the moon, okay, and I agree on that. They create illusion in the houses they sit in, but understand what aspects they are given. Okay, they are given fifth and ninth aspect. They are given fifth and ninth aspect, no other aspect. Okay, fifth and ninth. Why so? Fifth is the house of education, and ninth is house of higher education. So the purpose behind giving the aspect, as I understand, okay, I am not the ancient rishi who has given the aspect, but as I understand, as I interpret, purpose behind giving the fifth and ninth aspect is that you cannot remain under illusion throughout your life. You have to educate yourself. Okay, if I have Rahu in my 10th house, it is not that I can make an excuse. Oh, what can I do? I have Rahu in the 10th house, so I am not aware of my career, I am under illusion. Okay, I should not be able to make this excuse. So that's why Rahu has the fifth and ninth aspect, fifth house of education, ninth house of higher education. Okay, so I should educate myself into the matters related with the houses where Rahu or Ketu are aspecting, and that is where I am going to have some knowledge or education or awareness, which will help me to get rid of this illusion. We are supposed to evolve through this life. Understand it in this way also. Uh, if a seed remains a seed throughout life and doesn't become a plant or a tree, it didn't utilize this life properly. So if we remain under illusion throughout this life, then what did we do in this life? We are supposed to evolve. This aspect of Rahu and Ketu, fifth and ninth, actually helps us in evolving. actually helps us in educating ourselves so that we can get rid of illusion of Rahu and Ketu and we can further evolve. Okay, so this is as I understand, this can be the purpose behind giving the aspect to Rahu and Ketu. Otherwise, now understand how cunning human mind behaves. If the Rahu and Ketu are not, because we think of all the excuses beforehand. Okay, if Rahu and Ketu are there in some houses, we can, and these aspects are not there, we can simply say that okay, what we can do, the see this huge Rahu and Ketu are there in these two houses, we are totally under illusion, what we can do. So to get rid of this cunning human mind, they had to give this two aspects. And this is what I feel. Anyone can have different opinion. No issues. Uh, it is also your soul chart. Again, we are not aware of our soul, so I would just say that it is chart of our right life path, the D9 one. Okay, it shows where we are going to find our right life path. Jupiter in 5th house in Pisces plus Mercury in 9th house in Cancer. It is a very good position for someone in knowledge oriented field. Jupiter in 5th house in Pisces, Scorpio ascendant. It is a highly knowledgeable person. Okay, and they can utilize their knowledge in helping others. Mercury in Cancer, very intuitive, can be very emotional, but very intuitive, and they can be very good writers also of emotional stories or romantic stories and all. Okay, I think any further question or we should close. Pranam sir. There's an article on website. If you like, you can read D9 and its irrelevance with marriage. So it may help people more in matters of D9 chart. Okay. Uh, okay, I think we are done. Take care. Enjoy your rest of the Sunday evening, and let's meet next week. Okay, bye.